Okay, the latest Man City transfer news concerns a potential link to Mikel Oyarzabal, Spanish 22-year-old, as a replacement for Leroy Sane. Now, lots been talked about Leroy Sane lately, and Bayern Munich obviously have been spouting off left, right, and centre. I think they've even had the doorman come out and talk to the press. Everybody at that club has spoken to the press about their pursuit of Leroy Sane, and their coach Niko Kovac has come out again in the press and said, he's pretty confident they'll land Leroy Sane. So thought we'd have a look at a potential guy who's been linked to Man City as a potential replacement. His nickname is Bigfoot. We'll come on to that shortly, and we'll take a good look at him, who he is, where he's been, what his stats are, what's his style of play, how does he compare to Sane, is he going to fit in the Premiership? Most importantly, do I think he's any good? But before we get into him, just let you know, the Bigfoot Football Journal is out, the Big Mouth Football Journal. I like to keep a journal of all the football matches that I watch, and I like to record all the stats, who was playing, my player ratings, stats of the match, and also there's a space in there to record like your diary of the day. So it can be about the match, or it can be just about who you went to the local cafe with, what's your favourite bar on the away matches, that sort of thing. And it's a permanent record you can keep then of your team, look back on matches and sort of see how the season progressed. There's room for about 60 matches, 60 plus matches in there. Lots of space for a club like Man City that are expected to play lots of matches through the season. There's a link in the description if you want to take a look, but that's the Big Mouth Football Journal that's out now. Now, back on to Mikel Oyarzabal. So who is he? Where's he been? Is he any good? What's his stats like? Well, he's a 22-year-old Spanish international, currently plays his football at Real Sociedad, and he's been there all his footballing life. He's a left-footer, left-winger, but he's one of these players that drifts across the front line. So he may start off the game in left wing, switch to the right wing, or drop off and play down the channel. So he can play right across that front line, but he's traditionally known as a left-winger. Now, he's a Spanish international. He's played under 18, under 19, part of the very successful Spanish under 21 European Championship side, and he's had a couple of caps for the senior team. Not really quite broken in there at first. Now, his nickname is Bigfoot. He's got size 12 feet. He's just a little bit under 6 foot. Size 12 feet, which is quite unusual for a professional footballer. Even some of the bigger fellas, it's quite unusual to have size 12 feet. So his nickname in Spain and in the dressing room, I think he takes quite a bit of stick apparently for the size of his feet. Now, he joined Real Sociedad in 2011, age 14, and he joined their youth setup, and a certain Anton Griezmann came through their youth setup. So Real Sociedad aren't one of the big Spanish teams. We'll go on to how he's done with them stat-wise and where they've performed. Now, 2014, age 17, he made his senior debut with the reserves. And then in 2015, he made his senior debut with the first team, and a certain name you'll recognise, David Moyes, was the chap that gave him that debut in 2015. So age 18, obviously David Moyes didn't last too long, but Mikel Oyarzabal has lasted a bit longer than David Moyes there. 16-17 season, so the following year he'd been 19. He featured in all 38 matches. And again in the 18-19 season, he's a first team regular. He even captained in the last 10 matches. Now, if you compare the youth players in Spain and some of the European leagues at 18-19, they're getting the opportunity to become first team regulars and play a lot of first team football. And you can argue that that's one of the issues with having such a good Premier League. Is that some of the 18, 19-year-olds that are coming through the youth academies in Man City and Liverpool and Tottenham, quite not getting the opportunities that some of these European guys are getting. So when they're looking for replacements for players, and they're looking for these lads that have developed through youth academies that they can put potentially into the starting lineups in the Premiership, they're going over to these clubs in Spain and looking at these 21, 22, 23-year-olds, because they've got a lot of first team experience there. They've played a lot of football. They've created their football IQ because they've been playing top level football for quite a while. So that's who he is. He's got a 75 million euro release clause on his head. It equates to, I think, around about 67 million Great British pounds. He's like I say, he's quite experienced. He's played in the Europa League a little bit, although Real Sociedad aren't one of those top teams. I mean, the last 3 seasons they finished 9th, 12th and 6th. So when we look at his stats, bear in mind he's not playing in one of the top Spanish teams, and I think it's fair to say he's one of their star players. So we'll run through his stats. So 16-17 season, 43 appearances in all competitions, 4 goals, 9 assists. 17-18 season, 43 appearances, 14 goals, 8 assists. And in last year, 18-19 season, 41 appearances, 14 goals, 4 assists. So that's playing in a very mediocre Real Sociedad side. So you can see he's producing reasonable stats, but he's not absolutely thrashing the goals in, thrashing the assists over. He's very steady. He's grown. He's developed. There's been no fanfare about him. There's been 1 or 2 clubs over the last couple of years looked at him and been linked to him, but he's sort of gone under the radar a little bit. So internationally, he's played, like I say, under 18, under 19, under 21. His under 19 stats, he only played 4 games at under 19 level, no goals, 1 assist. Under 21 level, like I say, part of that very successful Spanish under 21 side. 25 appearances, 8 goals, 4 assists. So you can see, as a winger, they're not bad stats. Senior level, 2 games, 1 goal, no assist. So I think he played a game for Spain senior side 2 or 3 years ago. Then he just got back into the side again in the last 12 months, but not quite just got himself as a sort of regular mainstay in that squad yet. So you can see he's at that point where he's one of those players that's at a bit of a turning point. Young lad, 22, and he's either going to push on and become a really great, well-known player, or he's one of those that could just drift away as known as a good, solid player in Spain. Now, at the moment, he's got the freedom at Real Sociedad to be able to drift where he wants on the pitch. So he starts on the left wing and he has a little go on the right wing, drift down the channels or down the centre. And one of the things is, under Pep Guardiola at Man City, he probably won't be given that freedom. So, the first thing to look at is will he play a defined role in a defined position? And that is likely to be that down that left side, like I say, as a replacement to Leroy Sane. He's not an out-and-out speed merchant. So Leroy Sane, I think, when they did the fastest players in the Premier League 2 years ago, he was down as the fastest player in the Premier League. I think he slipped a bit this last year, but was still in the top 10. Mind you, I think they had a goalkeeper listed in the top 10, so how accurate that is. But Leroy Sane has got absolute blistering pace, and this guy, he's not slow by any means, but he hasn't got that blistering pace. He tends to create, he's good at finding space. He's got an eye for being in the right place at the right time, making the right runs. He's very clever, so he's a very clever player. He's built quite a high football IQ, and he's left-footed, like I say. He's very silky with that left foot. Finds some beautiful passes that until he's made the pass, you didn't even know it was there. So he sees things. He's one of those players that sees things that other players don't. But he's not going to be a knock it and go like you can sometimes see Leroy Sane go, or he's not going to be bursting through one-on-one maybe as many times as Leroy Sane. He's happy to track back. He's happy to do the work. When you watch him, he presses relentlessly on the defences, so that will go down well in the Premiership. He's not a flash Harry. He's got, when you sort of research him and look at what coaches have said about him, he's not a flash Harry. He's a very sensible lad. When he broke into the first team, he still wanted to complete his degree. I think it was in business and administration and management. And it was just in case things didn't work out as a footballer. So, he sounds like he's got his head screwed on. So there's no attitude, no chip on his shoulder. He works hard, he tracks back. He's a really good footballer, like I say. Physically, I think he can cope with the Premiership. Just under 6 foot. He looks a lot older than his years. He's not one of these sort of young, gangly looking lads that looks like he needs to grow into his body. If you said he was 26 years old, you'd quite happily believe it, but he's 22. Do I think he's a good replacement for Sane? Well, I mean, everybody talks about Leroy Sane going on. I've always thought he would go, and I think it's sort of now getting a little bit silly with how it's all been handled. So I'm not a great fan of how of his attitude and his personality, but he's a phenomenal player, and this guy is very, very good. Slightly different type of player. Is he as good as Sane? I don't think he is. He's a year younger. So there's still another year of development there if you were to do a like-for-like comparison. But I don't think he's as good. But he's a different type of player. Now, a lot of the times when I watched Man City last year, particularly against some of the mid-table and low-down teams sort of parked the bus, and they had those 3 rows of players that sat on the edge of the penalty area and just in front and really chocked it. And there's games where, it was, are Man City going to be able to break this defence down and create that chance? And the 1-0 wins came, but so nearly they didn't on some occasions. This is the sort of guy that's very clever. So where teams sit back and you won't get that space, he is the sort of guy that will be able to see a pass, an incisive pass, just to open up his forwards. And he's going to have a lot better teammates. No disrespect to Real Sociedad, but he's going to have a lot higher quality of teammates making better runs, better angles, better space. I think the thing where his weakness is that he hasn't got that out-and-out blistering pace. He's not played in the best team at Real Sociedad, but he has shone. He's got a high release fee. I'm mixed on him. I don't really know what to think of him. I think he'd be a good recruit. Is he worth 67 million? It's hard to say in today's market when you see people like Joao Felix go for over 100 million. Yes, he's worth it. But no doubt Man City will have done 100 times the research I can do on him, and they'll know whether he's the right player or not. But he is a very, very clever, high football IQ, very professional, been developed well. He's not a flash Harry, no bad personality traits that I can see or chip on his shoulder. And I think he'd be a very good addition to any team. But my one reservation with him is not the same pace as Sane, and I don't think he is as good a player as Leroy Sane. But then I don't think there's too many players out there at that age, 22, 23, that can match up to Leroy Sane. So we'll see how the Leroy Sane one develops. Keep an eye on this guy, Mikel Oyarzabal, known as Bigfoot. I hope you enjoy the videos. If you do, if you give some support and like and subscribe to the channel, I'll keep you up to date with all the latest transfer news and opinion reviews and reaction on the big matches as we go through the Premier League season. And thank you once again for watching.